Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are in book 2, chapter 4, Multiple Lives, and the sub-item is Incarnation in Different Worlds that we started last week, and we are going to start today on question 183. Question 183. Okay. We talked about incarnation in different worlds. Just a reminder, the whole universe is populated by spirits. There are spirits in every astral body that exists in the universe, not incarnate spirits in all of them, but even discarnate spirits that they all have a place that they call it home, so to say. So yes, we have spirits in different worlds, and also we learned that our journey did not start here on Earth, that we are spirits that came from other worlds and are here on Earth reincarnating on an evolutionary path, okay? But we can go over the ideas again as we go through these questions, okay? Philip, can you read for us?
183. Does the spirit go through a new infancy when passing from one world to another? Infancy is a necessary transition everywhere. However, it is not as underdeveloped in all worlds as in yours.
Okay, so we understand that the spirits, they have to go on a reincarnation. They start from being a child, right? Now, the more we evolve, the shorter will be the infancy, because more evolved spirits don't need to go through the whole infancy as we know here on Earth. We don't know exactly how it works because we have very little information on more advanced worlds because of our lack even of words of understanding. We know of the planet Earth from what we find in historical research and different studies. And we learned that, infancy here on Earth is basically the same as we have always heard of, but the way we treat infancy changes. We are learning more to respect the different phases of infancy that were less respected when we were less evolved in this planet.
Mommy, turn off that water. Out of there.
We learned that the children used to be placed to work at young ages in past times, and we learn nowadays there are still places that put children to work, right? But we are learning more and more of the importance of infancy and the different stages of development of children, right? But what the concept here for us is that as the spirit becomes more evolved and we incarnate in more advanced worlds, the necessity of an infancy in the same number of years that we have here on Earth is less and less necessary, because the spirit is able to acquire more self-knowledge and understanding of who they are as they become more evolved. And we see some few examples here on Earth, right? Spirits that from a very early age show characteristics that we call them genius, or we call them more advanced children, right? they bring this from previous incarnations, and they show these characteristics, music, playing music, musicians that they have the ability to read earlier, that have the ability to talk earlier, to have conversations that sometimes it's beyond their age, right? So these are small signs here and there on how it would be a more evolved incarnation in more evolved worlds. Okay. Comments, questions?
184. Does a spirit choose the new world it will inhabit? Not always, but requests can be made that may be granted if the spirit has earned it. Worlds can only be accessed by spirits according to the degree of their elevation. If a spirit makes no requests, what determines the world in which it will be reincarnated? The degree of its elevation.
Okay. There are important concepts here. First, for a spirit to be able to choose where it will reincarnate, or even how their reincarnation will work, or what they are going to face, the spirit has to accept the concept of reincarnation. There are many people that do not believe in reincarnation. That goes back to the spirit world and continue not believing in reincarnation. So they will come to a new reincarnation unaware that they are coming to a new reincarnation. It's a natural process. Reincarnation is a natural law, and it happens either we want it or do not want it. It happens at times that we need. So that's the first point here. Now, you can also not, if you can choose your reincarnation, you can not choose to reincarnate in a more advanced world than your level, your degree of evolution is. André Luiz, when he meets his mother in Nosso Lar, in the beginning of Nosso Lar, and asks her where she was, she said that she was always there, and but he wasn't able to see her. And then she tells him that she's in a more evolved spiritual plane. And then he asks if he can visit, and she says that he can visit, but he cannot stay there because it's more evolved than he is. It's the same thing with worlds. Again, in the spiritual world, it's much more divided in terms of our evolutionary path. In a physical world, the range is larger, right? So you have spirits more evolved and less evolved in a wider range, but until a certain point, right? Again, more evolved spirits can incarnate on a planet like Earth on missions, like we see in the book Renunciation. Alcyone reincarnates, asks to be reincarnated on Earth to help someone very dear to her. I believe his name was Pollux, but I'm not sure. Very dear to her. So she comes on a personal mission. She didn't need to reincarnate on Earth. She was already in a more evolved world. So you can always choose to go down, but you cannot choose to go up if you are not at the level that the world exists. So spirits that are not at the level of Earth, well, first they wouldn't know about reincarnation. But if they knew, they couldn't ask to incarnate on Earth because it was above their level. So, but again, something that we mentioned last week, we have several incarnations in the same place. Do we belong to Earth? No. So why do we keep coming back to Earth? All our loved ones are here. All of our all the ones that we have to readjust are here also. So we've been reincarnating on Earth, probably most of us, for several incarnations. And with these reincarnations, we acquire affections and disaffections, right? And the affections, we need them to help us move forward. And the ones that we have problems, we need to readjust. We need to come here and amend our differences, right? So that's why we keep coming back. But can we go in one incarnation somewhere else and then come back on the following one if we need to, let's say, isolate ourselves from our loved ones and all our enemies in one incarnation so we can experience and learn something different? Yes, it's perfectly possible. Again, we are eternal spirits, so one incarnation is not really something very out of the ordinary, right? So it's possible, but it's not common. It will be the exception because we have more to gain reincarnating on the same place that we have our loved ones and our problematic ones, right? And we just have to look around in our own families, and we can kind of guess who are our loved ones and the ones we have to find a way to readjust, right? If possible. Okay? Okay, questions? Right. 185.
Is the physical and moral state of living beings on every globe always the same? No. Worlds are also subject to the law of progress. Like yours, all have started out by being inferior, and the earth will undergo a transformation similar to what has occurred on countless other worlds. It will become an earthly paradise when the people who inhabit it have become good. The human beings that currently populate the earth will gradually disappear and will be succeeded by increasingly perfect races. These transformed races will replace the current human race, as the latter succeeded others that were even more rudimentary.
Okay, there are two things here. First, the answer from the spirits. Of course, as we become more evolved, our physical body becomes less and less gross, right? And our perispirit becomes more ethereal, and that will reflect in the physical body that will become less and less gross in a sense of a more subtle, right? So to say. Now, not here, right? We know that Jesus, when a perfect spirit incarnated on earth and had a physical body like we had, because you cannot have a physical body different from what the world allows you to have at that level of evolution, right? But when we talk about, for instance, Jupiter, that we know it's a planet, a gas planet, right? The incarnation of a spirit in Jupiter has to have a different physical body because it has to be a physical body that is adapted to a planet of gas, right? Instead of a planet of a solid planet like Earth. How it is, we don't know. But we know that it's the spirit says that Jupiter is more evolved than Earth, so should be a more evolved physical body also. We are going to talk about the perispirit in a couple of questions because Kardec asked the spirits if the perispirit is the same. So the physical body will be according to the level of the planet, and we just have to look at the evolution of planet Earth, right? We had a dinosaur. First, we had nothing for a good 1.5 billion years. No living beings. And then we start to have some amoebas and some rudimentary forms of lives. And then, you know, very much later, we had the dinosaurs, right? And then the dinosaurs were extinct, and human-like kind of spirits started to inhabit Earth, right? I remember reading a statistic that I found it very interesting, right? That if the life of Earth was a 24-hour clock, the dinosaurs appeared at 11:50, and humankind at 11:57 p.m. So you see how long Earth had other no forms of life, and then other forms of life, right? So if Earth spent like 1.5 billion years without any form of life, there may be there probably is, and I'm sure there is, billions of planets that are still developing themselves to prepare to receive spirits. Now, the explanation by Kardec here, that he says the human beings that currently populate the Earth will gradually disappear. He's talking about our physical bodies. Our physical body is evolved, right? So when he says that the human beings currently populate the Earth will gradually disappear, it talks about the physical body, and also talking about the spirits that will move to different places, but there are spirits that will continue to be here. But when you read this, you think more about the physical body, right? That will continue to evolve. We are learning to deal with diseases. We are living longer. We are being able to find a cure for diseases that afflicted humans in the past that were able to treat. Of course, we're still learning and evolving, but and we tend to look, you know, last 150 years, how much medicine have evolved. So put another 150 years, right? The evolution is kind of geometrical, right? So it will evolve even more. So we can imagine that human beings in 500 years will suffer much less physically with the advances of medicine and with our own moral advances, right? Because our moral advances helps our physical body suffer less. The more and more we are learning how our mental state helps or harms our own physical bodies, right? So you can imagine that we will continue to learn more about that, and we will continue to be able, with Eternal Spirit, to influence our physical bodies to be more efficient, so to say, right? So that's what Kardec and the spirits were talking about here. But again, each world, the physical body has to be adapted to that world, and the perispirit also, but we're going to talk about it in a couple of questions. Okay.
186.
Yes.
Are there worlds where the spirit, having ceased to inhabit a material body, only has the perispirit as an envelope? Yes, and this envelope becomes so ethereal that, for you, it is as if it did not exist. This is the state of pure spirits. It seems as though that statement implies that there is no clear line between the state of the final incarnations and that of a pure spirit. No, this differentiation does not exist. However, as the difference between them continues to diminish, they blur into one another just as the darkness of night fades into dawn.
So here we have one concept that the first answer from the spirits. As we become more and more evolved, it reaches a point we no longer need to reincarnate, right? That's when we become pure spirits or perfect spirits. But when we become pure spirits, we still belong to a world at that time, right? Even if we are no longer attached, in a sense, to that world, as a pure spirit can go throughout the universe with the thought, but they still have a place, let's say they call home, right? So that would be what the spirits are trying to say here, that worlds will continue to evolve, and worlds will have only spirits, discarnated spirits. Some worlds will have only discarnated spirits inhabiting them. Even stars have discarnated spirits inhabiting. So the sun, you can ask, there are incarnated spirits on the sun? No, but there are discarnated spirits that live, let's say, in the sun, right? Because spirits act in all universe. So if spirits act in all universe, in direct connection with God, pure spirits, and then below the spirits, you have to conclude that there are spirits everywhere in the universe, including in the stars, right? Now, there is the second question is if there is no clear line, and that makes sense, right? The evolution is not divided. You don't jump from imperfect spirit to a more evolved spirit. You transition, and it's a transition. The comparison they make here, as the darkness of night fades into dawn, it's a very good analogy, right? Because we change and we evolve without really noticing. It's, and you have to look here. We mark our passage here on earth through years, right? 7 years, 10 years, 20. But every young child or teenager wants to turn 18 or 21, right? And then you turn 18 or 21 and you look at yourself and you say, I haven't changed. Nothing really has changed besides the official age, right? Which is, in reality, yes, we are changing every day. It's just that we don't notice, right? So the transition of the spirit into a pure spirit through all the categories that we studied some questions ago, it's the same, right? They continue evolving, and eventually they'll become pure spirit in a natural process. When they become pure spirit, when they reach the more the complete evolvement on the moral aspect, right? Combined with the intellectual. But spirits will continue to evolving always. The law of progress is constant. So you have to think that you have a line that here is God and here is the pure spirit getting closer and closer to God, but never reaching God, right? Continues evolving, getting closer and closer and closer, but it's already a pure spirit. Jesus is a pure spirit, but can you say that there are spirits that are even more advanced than Jesus? Well, he's the governor of the planet. There is a governor of the solar system. There is a governor of the galaxy that we live in. There are a constellation of galaxies. We don't know because it's a little bit too much for us, right? But you can imagine that we will continue in that sense that we are always evolving even after we become pure spirits. How? It's beyond our capacity of understanding. We are too far from that. We can barely understand our own progress now, ability to evolve now. So it's just a matter of understanding that we continue to progress. Okay? Okay?
187? Is the perispirit the same in every world? No. It is more or less ethereal. In passing from one world to another, A spirit dawns the matter of each, changing its envelope at the speed of lightning.
This is very important. Should be at the speed of light. I don't know why it's speed of lightning. I don't know. This is not correct, right, Philip? Should be a spirit of light, right? Speed of light.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's a very important concept, right? Because our perispirit, our spiritual body, is formed by matter that belongs to the planet we are. And that's a concept that sometimes people find it hard to understand, right? Because if we have a spiritual body and we move from one planet to the other, where does this spiritual body stays, right? How does it change? And they answer here, we change at the speed of light, even without knowing it. So let's say the spirits, Earth is moving from a world of trials and atonements to a world of regeneration. So the spirits tells us that there is the spirits that are focused on doing evil and taking pleasure in doing evil are being transferred to a less evolved world, to a more primitive world, to continue their learning there. And they are moving in groups, right? So they go back to the spiritual world around Earth. Groups of spirits are taken to less evolved worlds. They have no idea their spirit is changing from when they go from Earth to planet B, let's say. But it changes, right? It's a natural process. Of course, as we learn more about ourselves and we evolve, we will be able to understand the concept better. What we know today is that even our spiritual body, the perispirit, is formed, the outmost layers of the perispirit, the ones that are associated with our physical body in the incarnation, when our physical body dies, they stay. They don't go with us back to the spiritual world. So our perispirit, when we are incarnated, has some outlayers that will not stay with the perispirit when we go back to the spiritual world, when our physical body dies. So it's called a double etheric, right? If anyone wants to know the name. So that gives us an idea of how the perispirit can change also from one world to another. But how it does and the exact process, we don't know, but we know that it does. Okay, right?
$188. Do pure spirits inhabit special worlds, or are they in universal space without being attached to any specific planet? Pure spirits inhabit specific worlds, but they are not confined to them as people are on Earth. They possess the highest power of instantaneous movement.
Okay, so first, pure spirits inhabit specific worlds. That's very important, right? But they are not confined to them as people are on Earth. Pure spirits can move at the speed of thought. Actually, less spirits that are still not pure spirits can also do that. The more you evolve, the more you learn to think and be there, right? Not at the level of us here. André Luiz describes his travels throughout the spirit world, describing his movements, right? The book, The Messengers, it takes 2/3 of the book for them to arrive on Earth. But a pure spirit will travel at the speed of thought. So they are in one planet, they think about Earth, they will be on Earth, right? How does it work? We know it does. We can imagine how it works. It's not completely crazy to imagine, but we don't fully understand. It's the power of instantaneous movement. Again, they say that the spirit is where their thought takes them. And that works for less evolved spirits also, right? When we discarnate, where do we go? We go where our mind takes us, right? We associate with spirits that think and vibrate at the same level as we do. So that's how we end up in the lower zones, in Osolar, in spiritual colonies, spiritual other places. We end up where our mental vibrations takes us. So perfect spirits, the important concepts here, they belong to specific worlds, yes, but they are not confined there. They keep moving around as much as needed according to what they are doing. What are they doing? What pure spirits do, which is to work in the creation of everything in the universe in direct connection with God. That's as much as we know. Okay, there's a long note here, but we're not going to go through it. Okay, we're going to move to the next item.
189. Does a spirit enjoy all its faculties from its creation? No. As in the case of human beings, spirits experience infancy. At birth, they only have an instinctive existence and scarcely possess any cognizance of themselves or their actions. Their intelligence develops gradually.
Okay. Again, a spirit is created simple and unaware. We go through all the phases, right? The mineral phase, the vegetable phase, the animal phase, and the more evolved animal phase until we reach the level of individual spirit. So before that, we call spiritual principle, just to differentiate, okay? When we are going through the lower phases, the mineral, vegetable, animal, we call spiritual principle. So when we see a tree, when we see a fish, when we see a dog, it's all spiritual principles, not individual. A tree is not a spiritual principle. You don't need to be one tree, right? If you go through the phase, learning when you are in a vegetable state, you are learning the autonomic functions, right? The mineral phase, you learn aggregation and disaggregation. Through in the vegetable phase, you learn autonomic functions, right? What's autonomic function? Your heart beats without you doing anything. It just beats. That's an autonomic function of the physical body, right? It's not instinct. Instinct comes in the animal phase, right? When we are in the animal phase, we start developing instinct. And in the later stages of the animal phase, rudimentary intelligence, fragmented intelligence. We have continuous thought process. Animals, more evolved animals, have fragmented thought process. That's why they cannot build on their learning. For dogs will always be dogs in that sense, right? They can learn. We teach dogs, which teach animals, some animals which teach tricks, so they can learn, yes, but because of the fragmented thought and intelligence, they cannot accumulate this learning and build on it. When you look for, when you want to see instincts, right? For those that have dog or a cat, right? You could be playing with them and they are happy playing with you. The moment there is someone brings food, they forget about everything and run after the food, right? That's the only thing they can think of. That's the instinct prevailing over anything else. And that's what we learn through the animal phase. Now, when we become individual spirits, what do we have? We reached the state of continuous thought. But we basically have only instinct, survival instinct, procreation instinct, what we brought from the animal phase. But we start building on it, right? The simple and unaware, we start developing free will, start developing making free choices, learning from our choices, learning. We make mistakes and we learn from our mistakes, not to repeat the mistakes, learn how to defend ourselves, learn how to protect those around us, those that we care. So these are children spirits, right? Let's say. So, but the intelligence starts developing, and the moral side also starts developing. Very rudimentary in the beginning, but then we start building on it. So that's how we evolve, and we are going to go back to it later in this book, right? When we talk about the three kingdoms. Okay.
$191. Are the souls of primitive people in a state of infancy?
190.
Sorry. What is the state of the soul at its first incarnation? Equivalent to human infancy. Its intelligence is only beginning to bloom. It may be said to be testing out life.
Yeah, that's what we just discussed, right? We cannot really compare to a baby, because a baby is defenseless, right? And a spirit that is in its first incarnation, after it grows a little bit, it's not defenseless. It starts to interact with the environment and learn from the environment, and start to make small choices. You know, it knows where the food is, and it goes to the direction of that food, like animals do, right? But the difference is, because we have continuous thought process, we start to analyze our actions. We have self-awareness of being someone that animals do not have, right? By beginning our journey as individual spirits, we start developing free will, we become self-aware, and then we start to develop the moral and intellectual aspects of our evolution. Okay? $191.
Are the souls of primitive people in a state?
Sorry, of infancy.
Interesting.
There you go.
Okay.
State of infancy.
Relative infancy, but they have already experienced some development because they have passions. Are passions a sign of development? Development, yes, but not perfection. They are a sign of activity and an awareness of the self. In the embryonic state of the soul, intelligence and vitality exist only as seeds. A spirit goes through successive phases similar to those of the corporal life. It develops slowly from an embryo to infancy and reaches adulthood through a succession of periods, destined to reach perfection. The main difference between these two lives is that spirits are not subject to weaknesses or deterioration. The life of a spirit, while having a beginning, has no end. It takes a vast span of time, according to our perception of it, in passing from infancy to mature development, and this progression is completed by passing through various worlds. The spirit life is a sequence of corporal lives, each providing an opportunity for progress. These lives are made up of days, each an opportunity to acquire experience and knowledge. However, just as a person may have unproductive days, a spirit may have a futile corporal existence because it has failed to progress properly, leverage it.
Okay, so the question is, the souls of primitive people in the state of infancy. And the spirits say relative infancy, right? So, because they have already experienced some development, because they have passion. So the spirits bring the notion here of passions, right? That we start also to develop as we begin to develop as an individual spirit. And to have passions according to the spirits is a sign of development, of course, but not of perfection. The contrary, right? We know that we are still today victim of our own passions. But the awareness of the self is something very important, right? That an individual spirit has. An animal does not have an awareness of self, in the sense that an individual spirit has, that knows that is an individual, right? In the beginning, our moral and intellectual involvement is practically non-existent, but from day one, we start developing it and accumulating more awareness of ourselves. We learn more about ourselves, even if it's to defend ourselves, to look for food, to procreate, which is the basic instincts that we have in the very beginning. But then, as we go through endless corporeal lives, we continue evolving, and we go from one life to another. And again, we are eternal spirits, right? So the evolution of the spirit belongs to the spirit. The moral evolution of the spirit is always present. The intellectual evolution of the spirit can be hidden or in one incarnation because of the necessity of the spirits to develop intelligence in other areas, right? We talked about this last week. So what you are today morally is everything that you have. If you are kind, you will always be kind. You already achieved that. If you are patient, because you already acquired patience. So you don't lose your patience. You either have it or you don't. So if you're losing your patience because you haven't acquired patience yet. And this will come with us in every incarnation, because we need our moral evolvement to help our progress. Our understanding of ourselves includes the moral evolvement. But the intellectual side, we need to learn different areas. And again, if we come here and we are a genius in music, and we come next incarnation be a genius of music again, we won't do anything else. So we need to come with this kind of blocked in a way. It belongs to us as eternal spirits, but it can be blocked in one incarnation. And we can clearly see this in for instance, in people that have mental development problems, right? The spirit does not have. It's the physical body that prevents the spirit from fully expressing oneself. But the spirit doesn't, it's not mentally challenged. It's the physical body that prevents the spirit from presenting oneself like it is. It can be for several different reasons, right? It can be karma, it can be for an opportunity for the spirit to educate others that take care of it, and other different reasons. Let's not think of this as always karma. It can be other things. Most of the cases, yes, it's karma, but can be different things also. You see the example in the book Heaven and Hell of Marcel, a child that was completely physically challenged, but he was a very nice young kid that discarnates when he's 8 or 9 years old. And he talks about it in Heaven and Hell, about the necessity of having that incarnation for his own needs. I'm not going to talk about it. You can read there in Heaven and Hell. It's called Marcel. So, again, you see in him, the moral qualities are there. Even in that incarnation, that spirit that was completely restricted in the physical body. But the physical body prevent this spirit to act on his own will. Okay? Right? Okay, only me talking today.
Sorry?
Only me talking today. Me and Philip. Philip reads and I comment. And nobody else.
192.
Let's go.
By leading a perfect life now, could we skip all the degrees and become a pure spirit without passing through the intermediate levels?
You wish.
No, because what human beings believe to be perfection is actually quite far from it. Some qualities exist that are unknown to them, and in the current state, they have no means of comprehending them. They may be as perfect as humanly possible on earth, but still far from absolute perfection. A child, no matter how bright or talented it may be, must go through youth to reach adulthood, and a patient must recuperate before becoming a complete recovery. Additionally, a spirit must advance both intellectually and morally. If it has advanced in only one of these directions, it must match this development in the other to reach the top of the ladder. The more a person advances in the present life, the shorter and less painful his or her future trials will be in later existences. Can people assure themselves a future existence with less bitterness than their present life? Yes, of course. They can shorten the length and difficulties of the road. Only the person who neglects advancement remains stagnant.
So the spirits are clear here, right? That we cannot become a pure spirit in this present incarnation. And it's an evolutionary path. And the spirits tells us that there are some qualities that are unknown to us, right? That are some moral qualities that we don't even comprehend. So we can imagine what a pure spirit needs, but you can think of the intellectual side, for instance, right? It's so easy to understand that we won't be able to reach perfection thinking about the intellectual side, right? How much of the knowledge of Earth is unavailable to us in one incarnation? Almost all, right? We focus on specific areas that are important to us, but there are other areas that we'll need to come back and develop ourselves, right? Again, we don't need to go through each profession or each area, but we need to become, to have a better artistic mind as a whole, not specific. We don't need to be a painter or to be a writer or to be an actor. We just need to develop an artistic mind if we don't have in this incarnation. We need to develop a scientific mind if we don't have in this incarnation. We need to develop a philosophical mind if we don't have in this incarnation, right? So just with these three examples, we can see that it's impossible in one incarnation to acquire everything. Now, the more we evolve morally, the more we are able to bring with us our intellectual abilities, because we will learn how to prioritize what's important for us. At this level, we can't. If, we will still choose the easiest path. So if we come here with a great ability of being a musician, we are going to be a musician. We won't care about learning math or learning science, because I make my life as a musician. I make a very good life. Why would I worry about the others? I have people that will worry for me. That is a sign that we are still imperfect spirits, right? Because a more evolved spirit will come here and understand that oh, I'm a great artist, but I know very little of science. So let me focus on science. I need to learn science. How many of us on Earth can do that? Probably none, right? Or maybe one or two. So that's a sign that we have a lot to evolve still. Now, how can we prepare ourselves for a better future existence? By doing what's right in this one, right? By evolving morally on this one. And again, the moral evolvement is what really matters to take us to the next stage, because the intellectual is the easy part. It's just a matter of dedicating ourselves. We accumulate knowledge, right? But the moral qualities, we need to eliminate the imperfections, and to eliminate is always more difficult than to accumulate, right? So how we guarantee a future existence? We focus on this one, living one day at a time. Let's read one more, Philip. Sure.
193.
Just a
Can
second.
individuals
Just a
fall to, sorry?
Just a second, Philip. There's a question here. So, how do you explain someone that is morally evolved and loses? He was not in the first place. He was pretending to be morally evolved. You don't lose that evolved. So if someone that appears to be good becomes evil, it was not good in the first place. Because we don't lose our moral qualities. Yes. So you think, let's talk of Mother Teresa, right? That she has all this willingness to help others out of love. That's how she described. It wouldn't happen that at a certain point she would turn and say, I don't really care about people anymore. I'm going to isolate myself. I'm tired of helping people. Bye. It doesn't. She will help people because it's who she is. So the moral qualities that we have belong to us, and we are never going to go back, to regress. So if you see someone that looks like regressing, it's just that they never had to begin with.
Could it be explained by a mental state?
No.
Mental disease, not state disease.
No, not even that. And you can.
Because if it is a mental disease, then it's not the spirit, right? It's the body. It's the instrument that is defective, not the spirit. If you give a perfect good cello to your mind, he express all his abilities on that. But if you give to your mind a note cello that cannot be tuned anymore, you'll not be able to express his talent. So the spirit remains the same, evolved, but the instrument is defective. So the spirit will not regress. The instrument that is carrying now is not allowing the spirit to express its talents, moral or intellectual.
But one thing here is very important, right? If you see someone that is has limited mental abilities, they will show how morally evolved or less evolved they are. Because when you no longer have the restraints that prevents you to act on your worst instincts, you are more likely to act on them. So you see people with dementia or Alzheimer acting differently, right? Some of them are calmer, some of them are more aggressive, some of them are more patient, some of them are much less patient. Why? Because the inhibitions that we all have that control our worst instincts cease to control their own. These people cease to control their own instincts, and they act how they really are. And again, we are imperfect spirits. We have a lot of imperfections that we are very good in hiding, right, from the world. So when we lose the ability to hide, we are going to express them, right? So that's again, it may sound a little bit cruel, but it's the reality, right? We show how we are when we have no inhibitions. So that's why you see difference in people that have this develop these mental diseases when they're old.
That's not what we explained, that the spirit has to come back over and over and over just to better
Yes.
itself.
Yes. The moral, we evolve very little. The reality is that our stage of evolution, we evolve very little in one incarnation to another morally. Most of the imperfections, and again, if we honestly look in the mirror and analyze ourselves, compare ourselves to when we were much younger, a lot of the imperfections we had when we were younger are still there. Maybe we learn how to hide them better. Maybe we learn to improve a little bit, right? Again, it's not that you are not, when I joke about patience, right? It's not that one day you are not patient, the other day you become patient. It's something that you develop. So you look back, oh, I'm much more patient today than I was when I was younger. So that's something that you are developing, right? It's the moral qualities evolve. Still, you are not fully patient, so you are going to lose your patience. But it's all these things, right? You become less jealous. You become less envious. First, by trying to force yourself to become less and less, and until it becomes part of who you are. That's how we evolve morally. But it's a very slow process, and we do very little normally in our each incarnation at our stage. The more we evolve, the faster we will. But at this stage, we are still evolving very little. Okay. All right, we're going to stop here. We start next week on 193. Okay. So what we have this weekend on Saturday, we have a lecture by Yasuko Arakawa. So the lecture will be, it's an interesting one. It's 11 a.m. on the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page. She's going to talk about the moral crisis, how Spiritism comes in rescue, which is a very interesting subject, right? How can Spiritism help in what we call the moral crisis that we see nowadays in the world? On Sunday, we are going to study the Medium's book. This is the third Sunday of the month. A couple of classes that are on vacations. The Thursday Spiritist Group of Connecticut study at noon. We'll be back in August. The book club will be back in August 14th. They are doing the book Paul and Stephen. All our other study groups and works continue normally. Okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Elmo. Thank you, Philip, for reading, and thank you, everyone, for participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Spirit's book, our chapter being Chapter 4, Multiple Lives. Reincarnation is the natural law of God. As we evolve, it becomes easier. We will eventually reach a high level of purification. We may inhabit the earth many times to be with those who are familiar to us. We will become more ethereal and we may progress to more elevated worlds. There are spirits everywhere in this universe, including the stars. The law of progress is constant. The perispirit or spiritual body changes from one world to another, depending on whether it is more or less ethereal. Pure spirits can travel at the speed of thought instantaneously. A spirit is created simple and unaware and evolves through free will and through the experiences of moral and intellectual development. We never regress. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, the counselors, the mediums, the workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritist centers throughout the world that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth now and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace prevail. So be it.